You know, it's funny, I cut that trailer off after the last scene in the trailer, which I should bring up because it's kind of amusing.
Your father, it was an honor to be invited into his home.
Dad, you said it was an honor to be invited into your home.
Tell him I said thanks.
Amusing in the sense that it really looks like Kevin Costner does not want to be anywhere near this project, but lo and behold, he is. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that make up February 20th, 2015. Not a lot of memorable movies, and yet this one in particular was the biggest of the new releases, which should probably tell you how big of a weekend it really was. McFarland USA. So this is a story about Kevin Costner plays a football coach who loses his job and moves his family to take a new job at McFarland High School in McFarland, California, which is a predominantly Latino school. Discovering that some of the students are strong runners, he organizes a boys' cross-country team with 7 members who have little hope for their future. They become a close-knit, mutually supportive unit. Under White's guidance, the school's cross-country team becomes outstandingly successful, winning 9 state titles over the years. With that respect to that first team, all its members escape from the cycle of poverty in their lives, being forced in their families to go to college or into military careers. Almost all members continue to attend the practice that Jim White held for successive school cross-country teams, even after graduation from college. So yeah, this is pretty much the typical cookie-cutter Disney sports movie, underdog sports film, which is the biggest problem with the movie, that it is very much by the numbers. You always got the misfits who can't come together, and then they will eventually come together. You got the coach that is working his ass off to get this right, so he keeps his job and gets this team to come together. You got to have the asshole team who are gonna respect them at the end of the movie, and yeah. It basically kind of falls into the typical category here. But as I've said before, a lot of these Disney sports movies are not bad movies. Some are more memorable than others, like Miracle is one you always remember. Remember the Titans is always one you remember. Like Invincible, Glory Road is a really good one. And then you have some ones that weren't successful but are still pretty good, like $1 Million Arm and The Greatest Game Ever Played. This one is kind of down towards the bottom of the barrel, but like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's just a movie we've seen kind of done to death before. And I made fun of Kevin Costner looking like he didn't want to be there, but he does give it his all in this movie. Him and Maria Bello are really good in this film, and you do buy the chemistry between them and also these kids. And yeah, the writing overall is good. The direction by Nico Caro, who did Whale Rider, is also very good as well. And once again, it's a by-the-numbers Disney sports movie. Not one of the more memorable ones, but it's one I enjoy. I think it's a fine film. But unlike the ones I mentioned before, it's not a Disney sports movie that's going to require a lot of repeat viewing towards it. I mean, it's a one where you watch it once and it's just kind of like, okay, that was alright. I probably will never watch it again, unless there's literally nothing else on. But other than that, though, it's alright. Nothing spectacular, nothing amazing. It is what it is. So, that is McFarland USA for you. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Mae Whitman starring in The Duff.
I was a duff.
That's crazy because you're so...
I know. I mean, look at me.
The Duff, in theaters February 20th.
This is a weird movie for me because this movie did very well. It was a big hit when it came out. But for some reason, the thing that sticks out with me the most about this movie is not the movie itself, but the poster. Specifically the way Bella Thorne is, like, posed in this. Like, take a look and see what I mean. Does that not look like she's just waiting for somebody to just lift her up through the arms, like is from underneath her legs and all that? Like, that position is just like, is somebody going to lift me up or what? It's just like, I don't know. For some reason, that pose is just really odd to me. But this is The Duff. This is a high school comedy in the same vein as something like Mean Girls and Easy A. And in this movie, Mae Whitman stars as Bianca, who's a content high school senior. She's a content high school student. Let's go with that. She's a senior whose world is shattered when she learns the student body knows her as the Duff, a.k.a. the designated ugly fat friend to her prettier, more popular friends. Now, despite the words of caution from her favorite teacher, played by Ken Jeong, she puts aside the potential distraction of her crush Toby, played by Robbie Amell, and enlists Wesley, a slick but charming jock, to help reinvent himself. Actually, Wesley's played by Robbie Amell, and Toby's the one played by Nick Eversman, so I got that name screwed up here. But to save her senior year from turning into a total disaster, Bianca must find the confidence to overthrow the school's ruthless label maker, Madison, played by Bella Thorne, and remind everyone that no matter what people look or act like, we are all someone's Duff. Yeah, it's a movie that I mean, yeah, it's definitely in the same vein as something like a Mean Girls and also something like an Easy A. It's directed by the guy who did the Vince Vaughn Wild West comedy show 30 Days and 30 Nights Hollywood to the Heartland, and will later go on to direct Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween, which not as good as the first Goosebumps movie. We'll get into that later on in this year, but yeah, this movie overall is really good. It's really cool to see Mae Whitman getting a chance to show her potential as a leading actress. And I do like Bella Thorne in this movie. I thought she was pretty good. I kind of thought she was on her way to having kind of an evolution of her career after being one of those Disney Channel stars in general. I thought she was going to be the next big one, but sadly, she never really did that. She mostly stayed relegated to stuff like, she did, what was she in? She was in, I mean, her biggest movie up to that point was Blended, and then this movie, and then she does Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Trip, and then her career is kind of destroyed after that. She's been basically relegated to generic films that don't really make much of her talents overall. More on Alvin and the Chipmunks later in the year, especially the weekend it came out, but she's alright in here. I thought Robbie Amell was pretty good, too. He's turned out to be a nice actor overall. He's done stuff like The Tomorrow People and Upload. Upload was a really good show created by Greg Daniels of King of the Hill. Robert E. Malcolm has some good funny moments in here. So does Ken Jeong, Allison Janney. You see a little bit of her in there. The movie overall is a solid film. Do I put it in the same pedestal as something like a Mean Girls and Easy A? No, I think those movies are definitely a lot better than this is, but this is by no means a bad movie overall. I kind of avoided it at first because I thought to myself, okay, this one probably isn't going to work for me overall. But I did check it out because it was a Black Friday sale on that year at Best Buy, and I got it. And I'm glad I got to see it because it was definitely worth it in the end. Again, kind of like with McFarlane USA, good movie, not one I'm going to want to watch on repeat like some other much better movies like this. So let's go ahead and move on to what ended up being the surprisingly really good movie of the weekend, and that is Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
I had sex with Marilyn Monroe.
I discovered cocaine. Patriot Lou, you guys gotta come with me.
Why? We gotta make America happen, bro. You're not gonna be super welcome there, but we should totally go.
Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
I think.
Yeah, this is exactly the type of comedy sequel that I've been known to smack around because it's coming way past the point where the first movie was relevant. 5 years after the first movie came out, it doesn't have one of its stars in it. They replaced John Cusack with Adam Scott. We'll touch on that in just a second here, but this is Hot Tub Time Machine 2, and in this movie, Lou, played by Rob Corddry again, finds himself in trouble, and Nick, played by Craig Robinson and Jacob, fire up the Hot Tub Time Machine in an attempt to get back to the past, but they inadvertently land in the future with Adam Jr., played by Adam Scott. Now they have to alter the future in order to save the past, which is really the present. It kind of reminds me of the opening of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. To save the future, we must learn about the past, like something like that. But yeah, for some reason when this movie was coming out, there was all this talk about how, John Cusack was the only reason the first movie was so successful, because that was not the case at all. Like, every review and interview that I heard about that movie going up to this point was like, they kept bringing up about how John Cusack was like the biggest part of the movie. Like, he stole the film, or he was the most important element of the movie. And yeah, he really wasn't. In fact, he wasn't even all that memorable in the movie. I liked him in that movie, but his story was just one of the stories in the movie. It wasn't the main story of the film. The main plot was, of course, these four guys get sent back into 1986, and they basically just say, fuck you to the rules of time travel, do whatever they want. And that movie was great because of that. And I watched that movie before I saw this one to get myself organized in this again. And yeah, Cusack's story in that movie was just one of the stories that was going into that film, not the main one. It's like saying that the most important story in Back to the Future is Marty trying to not get laid by his mother and not getting back into the original time, or trying to save Doc Brown's life after he gets shot by the Libyans. It's not. It's one element of that movie, but it's not the reason why this movie exists overall. I like how people forget that Rob Corddry and Craig Robinson, who were the highlights of the first film, are very talented people who can be very funny and have proven so since the first film came out. But they felt like John Cusack's character was the most memorable thing about them, the most important thing about that movie. And again, it really wasn't. Like, Corddry and Robinson have proven to be great actors, and they can carry stuff on their own merits. Like, Children's Hospital had been on the air for a long time when this was coming out. You know, how many great supporting and film and TV roles had Craig Robinson been in? You know, This Is the End, Get On Up, The Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Eastbound and Down. Like, Clark Duke was on The Office, too, and one of the main voices in The Croods, and he's a good actor, too. But no, we're just going to pretend like they were just on the side with the real star, John Cusack, stealing the film. And I'm sorry. I mean, he really wasn't. And when people look back at Hot Tub Time Machine, the first one, they forget what made that first movie so good. Cordry, Robinson, Duke, Crispin Glover was really good, Chevy Chase, and even Cusack. But, again, he was not just that one person that made that film great. Yes, he was also the producer of the film, but that's still no excuse to forget the other elements of it. So with all that said, though, how does the sequel fare up? And I really did like it. I think it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, especially considering the sequels that had come before this, but we'll touch on that in just a second here. But, you know, there's stuff that works here. There's comedy bits that do work very well. Cordry, Robinson, and Clark Duke work off each other very well. And I like that Adam Scott's a decent addition to the team. You know, Jillian Jacobs, Britta from Community, has some very funny scenes in here. Chevy Chase's cameo in here is good, too. Even though I kind of thought he would have been a little bit more in this movie overall. But, I mean, then again, it is Chevy Chase. And most people didn't usually like working with Chevy Chase. So I can probably see why he wasn't in this movie too much. But, you do get some good cameos, though. Like, you got Jessica Williams, who is predicted to be the next host of The Daily Show, which I thought that was going to actually be the thing, because this was around the time when Jon Stewart announced he was leaving the show. Little did we all know that it was going to be Trevor Noah that did it. But, yeah. Christian Slater's in here, Lisa Loeb, you know, a couple of others, just to name a few. By the end of it, it is kind of a middle on the road sequel, but honestly, after having to sit through stuff like Horrible Bosses 2 and Hangover 3, where they just recycled the plot of the first film all over again, Hangover 2 mostly, but you get the idea. That one's not that great either. They are trying to make it work on its own, and while the raunchy comedy doesn't work as well as this one did, as the first one did, it doesn't really, and while the raunchy comedy does work, I should probably say, doesn't work, but it doesn't really manage to match up to the levels of the first movie. There's nothing really memorable about it, but compared to other sequels, especially sequels that have been out for way past since the original film came out, this one is pretty solid overall. It's a solidly made film. I really enjoyed it. I would say I have a DVD copy of it, because really that's, I think, the most you should have for a film like this. But really, when it comes on Comedy Central, it's worth watching it there. If you weren't really excited for this one here compared to the first one, I'm not going to say it's something that you have to get out and see like the first movie. I think you should see the first Hot Tub Time Machine. This one, it's just a curiosity's sake overall. Not a bad movie, but not a great one either. A good sequel overall, which, yeah, compared to other comedy sequels I've taken a look at and smashed, this one's actually not that bad. So, there you go. That's my thoughts on Hot Tub Time Machine 2. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we'll see Will Smith and Margot Robbie teaming up for the crime comedy Focus. We also have Olivia Munn starring alongside... No, it's Olivia Wilde, not Olivia Munn. Olivia Wilde starring in the horror film The Lazarus Effect. And also David Cronenberg's latest masterpiece, if you even want to call it that, Maps to the Stars. So we'll take a look at those three films that'll be coming up tomorrow on the show. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist. Don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.